Welcome to The Subject is Moot, where everything we discuss is debatable. I am Dom, and across from me is...
Michael.
And a special thanks to Vinny and Quiz, the producers of the podcast. We want to hear from you, so write in your opinion, comments, or topics you want us to talk about to thesubjectismoot@yahoo.com, and we will bring them up during future shows. And make sure you stay to the end of the show, where you find out our artist of the podcast, as well as the answers to our trivia questions. So, Mike, how are you today?
Not too shabby.
Yeah, you're yawning there a little bit. You need a little nap?
A little bit.
Maybe we'll take a little time out.
A little bit.
Well, before we get started, as if anybody listened to the last show that we did, which was on guitarists, we had mentioned that Mike, I think, mentioned about 550 guitar players, but as we knew what was going to happen, he forgot one.
I can't believe it.
I could. I don't know. Why are you so surprised?
Nah, but this one really bothered me after we wrapped up.
Well, look, before we get started with today's show, why don't you just make up for lost time there? And
I'm gonna go right to it. Chris Oliva. I can't believe it, from Savatage. Great guitar player, great band, underrated in my opinion. He passed, unfortunately, in October of 1993 in Florida from a car accident. But if you listen to anything he did from the beginning of Savatage to his end, he's just a great guitar player, especially for that era. I think he was extremely underrated and one of my personal favorites. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, no. All right, well, I'm sure you feel a lot better now that you got that in. No, he's definitely a great guitar player, great band, and it was a treat. So, continuing, though, with your moot point, which is brought to you by Vintage Vinyl Records, New Jersey's legendary independent record store since 1979, located at 51 Lafayette Road in Fords, New Jersey. You could also check them out on their website at vvinyl.com, VVINYL.com.
Great group of people in that store. Please check it out.
Moving on to your moot point, Jennifer and Mark from Farmville, Virginia wrote in. I'm going to read kind of what she wrote. This way you get a feel. She writes, "We are fans of your podcast and always look forward to hearing what you guys are going to discuss next." She then wrote a little bit more, referencing our episode 3, Overplayed Radio Music and Music's Demise podcast. She asks, "You and Mike discussed recorded media possibly being music's demise. Do you think rock music or music in general is dead?" Well, Jennifer and Mark, thank you for writing in. We always appreciate your listening and supporting us. We definitely will discuss that at another show. We think there's actually a lot of meat in that topic and that question, so we don't want to just cut it short and just kind of just fit it in today's show, but we definitely will bring that up in our next show. So definitely stay tuned for it. We look forward to discussing that topic. Before we get started with the trivia questions for this podcast, we are going to be talking about lineup changes and their effects on the band, were they positive, negative, or basically no effect at all. Before we do that, let's talk about the questions. We have 4 questions for all you KISS fans out there. First question is, what was the name of Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley's band before KISS? Number 2, what KISS member was responsible for creating the KISS logo? Number 3, what is Gene Simmons' real name? And number 4, what year did the movie Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park air on TV? Stay tuned to the end of the podcast where we'll give out those answers.
I'm gonna have to stay tuned because I don't think I can answer even one of those questions.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what some of those answers are. So I can't wait to see your reaction. So today's topic is lineup changes and their effects on the band. Were they positive, negative, or no effect at all? Now, the bands that we're going to talk about, there's 5 of them: Queensryche, Journey, KISS, Judas Priest, and Iron Maiden. There are a lot of bands that we could talk about, but these were bands growing up that we kind of feel like had positive and negative effects from coming from any of them. But I guess there's too many bands out there to really go into because, some bands may have lost a drummer that had no effect at all, or even just a rhythm guitar player. So really no need to talk about them, I guess, as well. But I think for now, let's start with Queensryche. Mike, lead us off. One of your favorite bands, one of my favorite bands, and probably one of the greatest albums ever produced by this band.
Yeah, I think in music history.
Music history. Operation Mindcrime to me is, and we'll get into that. I don't want to give it away now.
I completely agree.
But Operation Mindcrime is just a treat and a gift that keeps on giving. But Mike, why don't you take us out?
All right, Queensryche, obviously from Seattle, Washington. Great band. The original lineup was always I would say, would be everybody's favorite. I never met a person who said to me, "Nah, I like that 2000s lineup or whatever." But the Queensryche, the band, released a total of 14 albums. I think one of them was an EP, bunch of DVDs, even VCR tapes actually before DVDs. The original lineup was Jeff Tate on vocals, of course, the great Jeff Tate, who left in 2012. Chris DeGarmo, sorely missed, left back in I think '97 after Here and the Now Frontier. Michael Wilton, who's still there, Eddie Jackson, and Scott Rockenfield. Their current lineup consists of Todd LaTorre on vocals. He did a short stint with Crimson Glory, who's another great band, underrated underground metal band, and Rising West. He's a talented musician, vocals. He does guitar. He does it all: bass, drums, keyboards. Michael Wilton on guitar, Parker Lundgren on guitar, Eddie Jackson on bass still, and Scott Rockenfield on drums. There were two other members throughout the years scrambling around. Kelly Gray played guitar for a period of time in the late 90s to early 2000s. And then a guy named Mike Stone took over, who I think ended up leaving with Jeff Tate. I believe is in Jeff Tate's band now. The last album Tate made with Queensryche was dedicated to Chaos, and I'm sure most Queensryche fans would agree with me that it was less than stellar. And then after that, he recorded Frequency Unknown under the Queensryche tag, because at the time they were sharing it before the court battle. But some fans got two Queensryche albums around that year, and I know the better one was. Well, so what do you think? What do you got to add to this the whole Queensryche change up?
Well, I agree. I absolutely agree that the original lineup was the better lineup.
As always, usually, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I would say so, for the most part. But I think, even though the loyal members, you got Michael, Eddie, and Scott, who are still in the band, still, solid, musicians back then. I think, Chris DeGarmo being the major songwriter of the band, and Jeff Tate really being the front man with superior vocals, those were really the cornerstone, I think, the backbones of the band. And, once Chris DeGarmo left, which, when you have all of their albums that preceded Here and the Now Frontier just being tremendous albums, that being probably, I guess, the start of
The downfall.
The downfall of where are they really going. Can you say, Chris DeGarmo leaving was a major effect? Well, the Here and the Now Frontier was his last album. So did it have an effect? You could say yes. You may not. I don't know. But I think at this point, though, without Jeff Tate and Chris DeGarmo in the band, there's really no reason for me to listen to Queensryche. I'd rather listen to Jeff Tate's band because I listen to the vocals. It's just rock music to me with Jeff Tate singing, and that's what I'm going to listen to for the most part. So I think that lineup change, Chris DeGarmo leaving, you're like, all right, I could probably get through it if they put out good albums.
They didn't.
Exactly, that's the thing. They didn't put out good albums.
And I tried, man.
I know, I agree.
Going back, I gave every single one up until maybe Tribe a try. I don't know if I really got into anything after. They had
Mindcrime after that too. Mindcrime 2.
Well, that was later on though. I waited.
That was another 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. After Tribe, I stopped, and then I said, you know what? If they're going to tag something with Operation Mindcrime, I'm going to give it a check out, and it was such a disaster. It's an embarrassment, in my opinion. But
because they raised the bar so high with Operation Mindcrime.
Right. The
original. I mean, it's just...
Even Pink Floyd didn't do The Wall, too. You know what I'm saying? You just don't do it. To me, it was desperation. And I will disagree, though, with you, because I think the current lineup of Queensryche is... They got a resurgence. I think the two records they did with Todd LaTorre, he does a great job on vocals. And I thought the same thing, that they would have lost the spark for writing. But the songs on those two records that they did with Todd LaTorre are very, very, very strong. And it actually blew me away. I was very pleasantly surprised at how good those two records were, because the music harkens back slightly to what I want to hear from Queensryche. Plus, LaTorre's vocals are close to a young Jeff Tate. So I'm fine with it. I would any day would rather listen to that version of Queensryche than Jeff Tate and his debacle of a band. Nothing against the members of his band.
No, and that's the thing. No, not at all. There's no. But I just get wrapped up into the vocals.
But he's not the same Jeff Tate anymore. I can tell you that.
He's not the same Jeff Tate, but he's still
Jeff Tate.
Jeff Tate. And you know what? I guess maybe you just give him the benefit of the doubt, I guess.
I think you need to listen to those records, and you may change your mind.
I'll go back. I'll go back and
You
definitely
don't have to go
listen
back.
him.
They just put one out. He just put a new album out recently.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. That's pretty much it for Queensryche.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Queensryche fans out there are. I mean, there may be a handful who are split, because like yourself, just want to hear Tate, and I understand that. To me, he's maybe the greatest metal singer of all time, which I'm sure plenty of people will disagree with.
Why? Because of Rob Halford?
That's fine. Doesn't matter. I don't really care. To me, Tate's the best.
Oh,
As far as what he does, metal, the type of metal that he does, he's the best.
why? You think people are going to say that it's Rob
Someone
Halford?
else. I'm sure that everybody has their own opinion. Maybe people may say Dio's better. You know, not just Halford. People love Dio.
Dio's phenomenal.
Yeah,
But he's-
I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who think Ozzy's the best.
I don't know. I'd be curious to know.
Write in, people. Our next band, want to move on?
Yeah.
All right, next band is Journey. Another great band. The current members of Journey would be Neil Schon, Ross on lead guitar, Ross Valerie on bass, Steve Smith on drums, Jonathan Cain on keyboards, and the surprise of probably to any Journey fan was Arnold Pineda on vocals, who is a dead ringer vocally for Steve Perry. It's uncanny.
It's almost like he never left. You know, if you don't watch a video, do you think he left?
No. Any Journey fan,
You said if you put on the radio today and Journey's playing, you'll think, when did Steve Perry come back?
I know. Yep. Any Journey fan, I would think, would be ecstatic that this guy's in the band right now, especially if you're just a Journey fan for the shows, the touring, and not so much, the studio albums. Because I'm sure people, there's those older fans who aren't going to love the new studio albums. But some of the past members of Journey, let's go back to that, are Robert Fleischman, who did vocals for a little bit. He was with the band for less than a year, left in '77.
Yeah, that was interesting though, because originally they started out, their singer was Greg Raleigh,
Right.
who played keyboards and was the lead singer. But then I think Columbia Records said, "Hey, listen, you guys need a front man."
You want to take it to that next level.
Exactly. So they get Robert Fleischman, who probably played for them less than a year before Steve Perry comes in. And Wheels in the Sky, I think, was underneath his reign.
Did he actually sing a version of it?
Yeah. It was underneath his reign. Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting. After him, Steve Perry came in and changed the fate of the band, changed everything for them. He, in my opinion, he made Journey. As great as the musicians are within the band, and the fact that the band wrote the songs, will those songs still sound the same if Steve Perry doesn't sing them?
That's like almost any band out there with a great singer. How would it sound?
But here it is, though. He stepped into Journey when they were already there.
Who? But what you mean? He stepped in over
Steve Perry.
over Robert Fleischman?
No, I'm saying Journey already existed as a band.
But just not even a year.
Right, but then here comes Steve Perry to sing, and it changes everything for them.
Yeah, well, but it's not like Robert Fleischman though was singing for the band for 10 years.
But I think but Journey's was kind of an instrumental band before Fleischman stepped in, weren't they? They kind of started their inception as a band was like 73, 74, right?
It was definitely early 70s.
Yeah. And I think before even Raleigh's lead singing may have just been sporadic throughout the records. I believe Greg Raleigh didn't. I think every song didn't have vocals. They were instrumental as well on their first few records. So my point is, Perry comes in, and they become a sensation, a radio sensation, touring sensation. Hit upon hits. If you look up the best-selling greatest hits albums of all time, I'm sure Journey's greatest hits is in the top 5.
They are they're one of the world's best-selling bands of all time.
Right.
Clearly,
Because of Steve Perry.
That's no doubt. But not taking anything away from the members of the band, it's Steve Perry is the band.
Well, my point is, look, after he left, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think their album sales stayed the same?
No.
Okay. I mean, they still made studio out records, and
Of course.
I think they're very good. I have them. I own them. I gave them a shot. Arnold Pineda is a fantastic singer, but people still want to hear what makes it work now is Pineda goes out every night and belts out those songs just like Steve Perry did, and people are probably mind blown in the seats that he's as good as he is and sounds like Perry.
If he doesn't sound like Perry, are they going to be happy with him?
Probably not. They'll still maybe go see Journey to hear their songs because, I mean, technically, going through the members, there have been other vocalists like Steve O'Gary. He was there for a short time. He was in a band called Told Stories back in the mid to early 90s, who were very good also. I think he's a local guy. He's either from Brooklyn or Staten Island, too. Jeff Scott Soto, who's a legendary underground vocalist. He sang for Yngwie, and he had a great band called Talisman. He's a tremendous vocalist, but I guess it just didn't work out when he was there.
Well, we also can't forget the fact that Randy Jackson,
American Idol Randy Jackson?
Randy Jackson played for Journey. Listen, obviously the greatest success was with Steve Perry in the band. I mean, pretty much one of my favorite vocalists of all time, top 5. You got Arnold Pineda now. He's doing a great. Listen, Revelation was a great album, kind of similar to the old school Journey.
Yep.
Okay.
It was very good.
Yep, with Steve Perry. Eclipse, a little heavier,
A little bit.
but a good sound. I honestly think. Look. If he didn't sound like Steve Perry, I probably wouldn't be listening to them. Maybe I would just as a fan of music.
Well, they would always surround themselves with a great vocalist. So they would always try to have a great vocalist in there. But the thing is, you want to hear that Journey sound.
Exactly. No, and then you got the Journey sound, but Arnold's making it the Steve Perry sound also.
Right.
It's perfect match. I can't think of any other band whose lead singer left where they replaced him with somebody almost as equal sounding. Now, AC/DC, what? Who else can you think of?
Priest. Ripper Owens was very close.
All right, well, we'll get into that.
We will. Yeah.
That's number 5.
I know.
So, very few. I know you got AC/DC, obviously Bon Scott, Brian Johnson.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, you'll have your Bon Scott fanatics, but their success was under Brian Johnson. Their massive success was with Brian Johnson.
So I think not having Steve Perry in the band, I think for those years that Arnold Pineda was not in there, showed its effect.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's not forget that. Arnold, if Arnold doesn't come in the band, they're not Journey anymore. They're just, I don't know.
Journey without Steve Perry.
Exactly.
But they are.
And how successful would they be? We don't know.
Well, because the thing is, as a person who loves musicianship, I'm not going to take anything away from the musicians within Journey throughout the years because they
phenomenal.
are top-notch musicians. But with that being said, they still need that lead singer in there, and people crave Steve Perry. There was just an article online. They asked Neil Schon, about Steve Perry. So there are people still want to know.
Yeah.
As good as Pineda is, it just goes to show you that people still would love probably to see Perry back in front. So
Like myself.
anybody,
Yeah.
I think any Journey fan would love to see it. And it's not taking away from Pineda. The guy's a monster.
No, and you know what? He's pretty much the reason. Look, I like vocals.
Yep.
You'll listen to a band more for guitar playing. I like vocals. To me, that's actually, you can't have a bad guitar player, but I like vocals.
You
to
can.
me. No, but what I'm saying,
I know what you're saying.
what
It's
I'm
more
saying is-
likely.
No, but what I'm saying is, I like vocals. If you have a bad guitar player, but he's solid, he's rhythm, he's good lead, whatever, that's fine. But to me, the vocals is where I listen to first.
100%. Well, that's to say, even for myself, I could always recognize a top-notch vocalist, and Perry was.
Right, and I think if he doesn't come into the band, obviously Journey's no longer until one day Steve Perry and Journey decide to do a reunion tour. But now they don't have to, because
And I supposedly because of health issues, unfortunately for Perry, you'll never see it because I don't think anybody's going to go out there and do it if they're not at least 75%. And
it's hard,
which is good. Actually, no. But if you think about it, it's really good that he does that because it's a credit to the fans. Because instead of going out there and trying to hit the cash cow and say I'm back, and then going out on stage and sucking every night, he doesn't do it.
Oh, no.
That's why I respect him more for it. I respect just like what do you call it? Did that recently too. Steve Walsh with Kansas. He retired from Kansas because I guess he felt he couldn't give 100% anymore. they picked up a new head of steam with their documentary and their popularity, and he felt he couldn't do it no more. So more credit to Steve Perry for not saying, "Let me go cash in off the fans because of my name." So
Yeah, so that's I think that's it. I still think not having Steve Perry in the band, yeah, that would be a negative effect. But they rebounded from it with Arnold Pineda.
yep.
And the third band now that we're going to talk about is Kiss, who a special place in my heart for this band was pretty much the first band after moving away from Sesame Street, to a real band.
Great job.
Yeah, it was a big jump. But back in the late 70s, I started listening to Kiss. Whether it was the mystique of their sound, the makeup, their costumes, whatever it was, they hooked everybody. The Kiss Army is probably one of the biggest fan base of any band, past, present, or future. But for me, it's really obviously their current lineup with Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Eric Singer, and Tommy Thayer. Past members, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent, Mark St. John, and Bruce Kulick. Those are, those past ones. To me, it's really the original lineup. I want to see Paul Stanley, Simmons, Frehley, and Criss out there. What I really liked about Kiss was every band's got the lead singer and everybody else, or some of the members of the band, they sing backup. But with Kiss, Ace Frehley and Peter Criss sang a good amount of songs by themselves. And if you look at Kiss's, one of their biggest hits being Beth, didn't even have the band playing. It was accompanied by piano. And when you think about it, that's actually, I think, very special for the members of the band who are in there. As far as talent-wise, to me, I like Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick as far as the replacements for Frehley and Criss. But I think, you ask anybody, they'd rather see Ace Frehley up there, as Spaceman on stage.
No doubt about that. And they're definitely one of those bands that people would much prefer the original.
Yeah, look, to me, the band, would I go see them now? No, I've seen them enough. Look, at some point, with obviously, you do spend a lot of money on CDs. I would love to spend that kind of money on CDs. Obviously, I just have other hobbies, other things going on that, I got to kind of split my money up and, it goes wherever it goes. But I would love to buy all the CDs. I kind of stopped after, it has to be Psycho Circus back in 1998. I didn't buy Sonic Boom and I didn't buy Monster. Eventually, will I? If I could pick it up in the used bin, maybe I will. If I can get a copy of it, I'll listen to it. I've listened to it, but it just wasn't enough for me to go out and buy it. I'm not that diehard Kiss fan anymore where I have to have every album. I have every album from Psycho Circus down. Do I pop them in? No. I would say, the solo albums are, they're okay. There was a mystique about them. They had very unique covers. It was nice. But
So what was the last record that they put out that you would say you loved?
something? I like Psycho Circus. I thought it was good. Carnival of Souls was nice. It was heavy. Revenge was heavy. There's a special place in my heart, Hot in the Shade. Hot in the Shade came out in 1989. Cheesy bubblegum rock music. But you know what, though? Those songs they brought me back to 89.
Was it Eric Carr and Kulick?
Yep, Eric Carr and Kulick brought me back to 89. That was my first Kiss concert. In the late 70s, early 80s, what am I? I'm not even 10 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old. Do I really expect my parents to take me to a Kiss concert? No, I didn't even think to ask, Nobody else in my family, like my uncle or anybody else, they didn't like the band enough to take me, and so I whatchamacallit, I never went to see them. My first concert was Hot in the Shade. My cousin Stacy came with me. We drove all the way out to Long Island, and we watched that show.
To the Mausoleum?
Oh, where the heck? I don't even know where it was.
Nassau? You didn't see him in Nassau?
Yeah, the Coliseum. Yeah, the Coliseum. Yeah.
That's why I call it Mausoleum.
Yeah, Nassau Coliseum. Faster Pussycat opened for them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but that's why my cousin Stacy went to go see them.
That's funny.
She went to go see them for Faster Pussycat. I went to go see them for Kiss. at least I got to say, I saw Eric Carr play, and Bruce Kulick. That was a treat for me. Eric Carr was great. Bruce Kulick to me is probably the better of the guitarists, in my opinion. But no offense to Tommy Thayer. At this point, I don't really listen to much of their music anymore. But I would say that for me, I like the original lineup. I want to hear Peter Criss singing Beth and Black Diamond, Hard Luck Woman, Dirty Living. Actually, I should say Dirty Livin', because that's the name of the song. And then you have Ace, singing Shock Me. Even 2000 Man was a great song. Into the Void was off Psycho Circus. He sang a bunch of other songs. Obviously, New York Groove, which was off his solo album. I like Ace Frehley's voice. I like Peter Criss in the band. So for me, I need the original lineup. Maybe I would go if you gave me tickets today and the venue was around the corner from my house, I would go.
Did you ever get into any of the Ace Frehley's Comet stuff?
Not really. No, and I like his voice in the band.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? In the band, I don't. A buddy of mine at work goes. He just recently saw Ace Frehley play. During his solo tour. He actually gave me an autographed picture.
Does he still sing?
Yeah. Actually, I think he had to get off the stage a little early. He was having. I don't know. He wasn't feeling good, Ace. So I think he cut the concert short. But overall, I need the original lineup. There's a special place in my heart for the original lineup. I mean, obviously, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, they're the band. But Ace Frehley and Peter Criss, they kind of made it what it was.
Yep.
So, Mike, you have anything to add for Kiss?
The next band is Judas Priest.
Okay, I guess that says it all right there.
The initial inception of Priest has been since 1969 to present. Obviously, it was a completely different band, and we're not going to delve too deep into Priest here and bore people. I'm sure real Priest fans know their history. The original singer was Al Atkins, and he had a whole different band, and the band passed it off to, I believe, Glenn Tipton and K.K. Dowling, or was it K.K. Dowling and Annie Hill possibly, and they just took it from there. And then, a lot like Journey, the band really took real shape and form when Halford came in and changed everything. But in the beginning, if you listen to those early Priest records, I wouldn't say they were what they became right away. They kind of started out, it almost sounded a little classic rock type of. And as the albums went on, the edge started to appear, a little more edge in each record, and then they became the metal behemoth that they were known for. The classic lineup, I would guess to say, would probably be Halford and Ian Hill, Glenn Tipton, K.K. Dowling, and in my opinion, Scott Travis. I'm sure people want to talk about the original drummer, and there was supposedly a lot of drama surrounding him, I believe, at some point, why he left and whatnot. But Scott Travis is a tremendous drummer. He played in Racer X, who's a personal favorite. So I would say it would be, one of the better lineups. Probably not the classic lineup, but their better lineup. And now Richie Faulkner took over for K.K. Dowling, and they're still going. Still going strong. That's because all the musicians are so great, and their fan base is strong as well. And they're still putting out records, too.
What would you say? Their best album is probably, 1982, Screaming for Vengeance?
It's my personal favorite.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get a lot of people who think British Steel was their best. I also love Stained Class, which was before both of them. And I love Painkiller, which was after them.
Not Turbo?
I think most diehard Priest fans don't care for Turbo too much, but I'm sure there's some fans diehards who still like it. It's almost like, that little hiccup in a band's, history that people would rather do without, but you still go back to it and go, all right, it was still a decent record. Their best-selling Alfred was 82 Screaming for Vengeance, going back to that, which spawned the hit You Got Another Thing Coming. In between Halford leaving and coming back, Tim Ripper Owens replaces Halford and did a phenomenal job. Their records were much heavier at the time than what people knew Priest for. But Ripper Owens, you couldn't have asked for a better replacement. And it's funny because one of our favorite singers, D.C. Cooper, tried out for Priest and probably was in the finalist.
Yep.
But I can't picture him in Priest. Ripper Owens was the perfect replacement. But again, it's hard to replace someone like Rob Halford, especially when you're Rob Halford.
Well, he's probably considered top five. I can't think of anything less. Maybe even top three heavy metal singers. You know, obviously we know where we stack up. You know, who we think is number one, Jeff Tate. But you know, other people will argue that Rob Halford is he's the best.
I would say he's in the top five. If you know, they're all interchangeable between him and Tate, Ozzy, Dio, and I'm not even sure who would be the fifth, but
you know what? This is like
Dickinson, of course.
Yeah.
You know, early Bruce. Bruce is still going. I think he sounds almost as good as he's ever sounded. And but you know, Priest is Priest. What could you say about them? They're a metal band who, even though the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doesn't want to acknowledge them, continues to still go and still get new fans, and their old fans still love them, and they still play, and people want to hear what they have. People want to hear their music.
Well,
Judas Priest.
Yeah, it's Judas Priest. It's Rob. He's back, and they'll be popular. You know, they'll be just as big for a long time coming. Obviously.
Yep. And there's really not much more to say about them. I mean, there's no sense of going on. People know, who Judas Priest is, I think.
Yeah.
And next is one of my personal favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
Another band at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just doesn't. It blows my mind that they turn their heads away from Iron Maiden being in the Hall of Fame. But Iron Maiden, and they've had a number of changes throughout the years that had some big effects. Starting with Paul Di'Anno, obviously. The first two records, a lot of their fans hold close to their hearts. Iron Maiden and Killers are fan favorites, and they still do songs from those records with Bruce, and even when Blaze Bayley was there for a period of time, because people want to hear them still.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I would say the majority of diehard Maiden fans want Bruce. You're probably going to have still a percentage who would love to see Paul Di'Anno come back and sing those songs again, the original two records. But I'll always be happy with the lineup of Bruce on vocals, Steve Harris on bass and backing vocals, Dave Murray on guitars, Adrian Smith on guitars, and Nico McBain on drums. Obviously throwing Janet Gers in there. He's been there since 1990, I believe. So it's a solid lineup. And you watch them live now, they still have tons of energy. Bruce sounds great. Even though they're getting older, they have not missed a beat.
I got to tell you, it's probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. Yep. And I've seen Dream Theater. I definitely haven't been to as many concerts as you have, but I could at least say that I've been to enough to say, you know what, that was probably the best show. Queensryche opened up for them.
Yep.
Okay, we saw them in the
and Halford, right?
And Halford opened up. Yep.
What a show at the Garden.
At the Garden, opens up. Iron Maiden comes in, headlines, blows the doors off the place. It was a show of shows, if you ask me. And you know what? To me, as a bass player, Steve Harris is really the reason why I listen to it, and Bruce Dickinson. You have most of the lineup in there. Actually, half the lineup has been in there since the 70s. Obviously with Bruce coming back. But Adrian Smith, Nico and Janik. Well, actually, Janik is newer. But no doubt.
He's only been there for 26 years.
Well, but newer compared to the original lineup.
Yes, of course.
But to me, I listen to Steve Harris. I think that bass playing is just phenomenal. I mean, he's definitely in my top list of bass players.
But it's a lot easier listening to Steve Harris when Bruce is singing his songs, because Steve Harris was still there during the Blaze Bayley days.
During all of it.
And, right. No, I'm saying, but in between there, those two records Blaze Bayley did. The diehards probably still like them, and they spawned some really good songs. But if you hear Bruce sing songs from that era, he makes it his own.
Yeah.
So again, another band where a vocalist plays such an integral role in their popularity and their success, because their success lies with Bruce.
Yeah.
Their major success, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt. But that's why I listen to it. I can get away with listening to other guitar players, maybe a little different for you, but like I said, vocals, and then Steve Harris just holds up the fort.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in the end, if you look at all these bands, these lineups have hurt them, and lineup changes have played enormous roles within the success of each band. And a lot of the times it lies within the singer, if you look at all the bands that we discussed, because Priest went from playing big arenas to smaller clubs when they lost Halford.
Of course.
You know, Maiden's success, which is it's a little odder, but Maiden played smaller arenas too when Bruce bowed out. Journey, I'm sure too, until Pineda came back, and they kind of got back because people now are understanding how great Pineda is as a vocalist and how he sounds like Perry. So more people want to see this guy sing, you know, Journey karaoke like Steve Perry, basically. So, and even Kiss, I mean, with Kiss, though, the one thing that didn't hurt Kiss too much was that you still had Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons there as their backbone.
Right. The founding fathers remained in the band.
Right.
Okay, they started it, they controlled it, they dictated what, you know, like I said, though, they let the reins out, you know, I mean, you know, Peter, Chris, and Ace Frehley got to sing and, you know, add their own style to it, and you know what? Having Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons still be in the band, to me, there was, you know, you still had the Kiss Army that wasn't going to leave,
Right.
you know,
Well,
leave them stranded.
and if you look, wouldn't you agree, if we reflect back upon our discussion of these lineup changes and even past discussions about, like, even someone like Van Halen, again, lead singer, even there, people will pick, most people will probably pick Roth, but Hagar, Van Halen's financial success grew with Hagar.
Yeah, their commercial success, their the 4 number one hits, you know, 4 number one albums.
And again,
Yeah.
a singer, singer change, you know,
Sing and
so
change, yeah, and a compliment, you know, obviously with Eddie, but yeah, I mean, that band is a little different though, I guess, because the band was Van Halen,
right,
was Eddie,
and Eddie's still there. Well,
exactly.
That was my point.
Like I went to go see them when Gary Sharon played. I mean, it wasn't a waste of
We
time.
went to see them.
Well, yeah,
and Sharon was phenomenal
he was phenomenal, but I wish
for
I
a
would've-
live show.
for a live show, yes, for an
Yeah.
album, for a
No.
studio album, no,
No, Van Halen 3 is
exactly. But what album?
well. So then you know. So then I guess that will wrap up our lineup discussion, right? Because I mean, if we want to put it all into perspective, it really has a lot of it has to do with the lead singer.
Of these five bands that we talked about, obviously Queensryche, Journey, Kiss, Judas Priest, and Maiden, I would say the only one with a different, well, although Tim Ripper Owens there, yeah, I would say Journey would probably be the most successful at this point if they're going to put out albums.
Albums, yes. Well, the Kiss Army doesn't let Kiss down.
No, but I'm saying with lead singer changes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yes.
forget Kiss because
Yeah.
Paul Stanley never left. But
Yep.
I would say studio albums, Queensryche, Journey, Priest, Maiden. I would think Journey would probably be the most successful with
A
on
singer
overhead.
change.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. With a singer change, definitely.
Yeah.
Because Maiden, if Bruce left again today, would there be a lot less people that would be interested in Maiden if they made another record with another singer? Definitely.
Right.
Same thing with Priest. If Priest went out and found somebody else, you know, you don't see the new Queensryche selling tons of albums, just like you don't see Jeff Tate's Operation Mindcrime
Right.
selling tons of records either. They're playing clubs again. So, yeah, I would agree.
If Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons leaves Kiss,
There's no Kiss.
and then that whoever replaces them, that becomes a tribute band.
Right. That's what it is.
You know, with Eric Singer and I mean Tommy Thayer is really just, you know.
So lineup changes definitely bear a lot of weight depending on who it is.
All right, Mike, it's time for the artist of the podcast. I'll go first. I'm picking Nova Era. Band is based out of Orlando, Florida. Founded in 1999 by producer-composer Andre Roca and oboist Maria Luisa Copelli. Nova Era is a modern approach to classical music with a warm melody and tone. The band consists of oboe, cello, violin, drums, bass, and keyboard. It's kind of interesting because they dressed in 18th century costumes. They wear powdered wigs. They've actually played all over the world. I saw them play at Epcot Center back in the late 90s. They perform weekly in downtown Disney. They have 6 CDs, including a CD of Christmas music as well as a DVD. You could hear them on iTunes. You could also check them out at novaeramusic.net, NOVAERA music.net. Like I said, I saw them in Epcot Center in 1999, and I've been a fan since. Definitely check them out. We are going to play a track called Galileo off of their album Millennium. That's going to be our outro today. So definitely stay tuned to take a listen to them. I think once you hear them, if you're into this style of music, which is a very cool classical, a modern classical sound, you're definitely going to be hooked. No doubt about it. So definitely stay tuned to check them out. Mike, let's see what you got.
My honors to the podcast is an oldie but goodie, Marillion from the UK. They've been around since the 80s. They never really exploded here in America, unfortunately, and another work crossover band that just keeps going, continues to make great studio albums. The new album is called Fear. It's an acronym for something else, but I'll let you figure it out. If you are a Marillion fan and you're on the fence about their newest stuff, you should check it out. It's great. It came out on September the 30th. It's got everything you want from Marillion. Another solid record from them. You know, everything is in place. Steve Hogarth's voice is still great. Steve Rothery on guitar. The whole band is great. If you weren't a fan and you like slower, more atmospheric, progressive music, they're legendary. They were there. They started it all before anyone else did. Please check them out. Even if you're a Radiohead fan or you're a fan of the obscure prog band Gazpacho or Porcupine Tree, Marillion did it all first. So please check it out. It's called Fear. And then check out all their records. Why not? While you're at it, they have a good amount of back catalog. So it's definitely worth looking into. It's one of my favorite new records that's come out in the past month.
That's a tremendous band. Marillion is absolutely tremendous. It's definitely great music. If you just want to just that melodic music, throw it on in the background or just put the headphones on and just get lost. I love Marillion.
That's a great point, actually. They're a great headphone band.
Yeah, you could really get lost in their music. Tremendous band. All right, Mike, trivia question answer time.
I was waiting for this.
I know. But for any Kiss fan, they pretty much got all these answers, I would think, for all of them except number 3. Gene Simmons, what was the real name? What was the name of Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley's band before Kiss? Wicked Lester. Right? Fairly simple. Start you guys off nice and easy. What Kiss band member was responsible for creating the Kiss logo? Ace Frehley. What is Gene Simmons' real name? Chaim Witz.
It's a great name.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why he didn't keep it. What year did the movie Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park air on TV? October 28th, 1978. I remember that day like yesterday. I remember exactly where I was sitting watching that TV. I think it was a 13-inch TV that my parents got from Sears. I don't know if it was color, but it may have been. I just remember that day.
Me too.
You remember that day?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you weren't watching the Kiss movie.
No.
No.
Probably the Muppets.
Yeah, well, you're a little younger than I am. All right, so Mike, time to land the plane and wrap this show up. Coming up next, our outro song from Nova Era, their song Galileo, off their album Millenio. But for now, I am Dom, and across from me is...
Mike. And we are out.